Good morning. Today we are looking at section 1.3, solving equations. And we're going to be solving just simple equations. And many of you guys have learned to solve equations differently from what I'm going to show you. Some of you guys start to subtract 7 on both sides. But I'm going to work them out in a slightly different way. And if you are comfortable solving it the way you've learned before, it should be fine. You should be able to get the same exact answer. Let's look at example number 1. We need to be able to leave the x by itself. We have a 3 and a 7. The 3 is multiplying and the 7 is adding. We can subtract 7 on both sides, or I'm just going to isolate or leave the variable by itself on the left hand side. I'm going to move the 7 to the right. And when I move it to the right, it's going to become the opposite. So now we have 3x is equal to negative 14. And this 7 becomes a negative 7. I'm going to go and simplify it. 3x is equal to this to have the same sign. So add, keep the sign of the bigger number. Now I need to be able to leave the x by itself. The 3 and the x are multiplying. I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. This will cancel. That'll give me an x is equal to negative 7. Now, if I want to check to make sure that this is the correct answer, I need to be able to substitute the 7 in for the x. So I have 3x plus 7 is equal to negative 14. Instead of the x, I'm going to replace it with a negative 7 plus 7 is equal to negative 14. I'm going to go and simplify the left-hand side. So give me negative 21 plus 7, negative 14. I'm going to simplify the left-hand side. Is negative 14 equal to negative 14? Correct. So now I made sure I checked my answer. For letter B, I'm going to go through the same process. Notice that the variable is on the right-hand side. I'm going to place a straight line on the equal sign to be able to divide it into two different sections. I need to leave the x by itself. It's on the right hand side. I'm going to move my 6 to the left. When I move it to the left, it's going to become a positive. So I have a positive 6. The negative 14 comes down. It's equal to negative 8. I'm going to simplify the left hand side. So I have negative 8 is equal to negative 8x. I need to leave the x by itself. I'm going to divide by negative 8 on both sides. That will cancel. X is equal to positive 1. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is going to be positive 1. Now to check my answer, I'm going to plug in a 1 into the equation. I have negative 14 is equal to negative 8. Instead of the x, I'm going to replace it with a 1 and then minus 6. Notice I'm going to simplify. I'm not going to solve the equation. I just want us to be able to simplify the right hand side to make sure that's equal to negative 14. That we have a true statement at the very end. Negative 8 minus 6. I'm going to simplify the right hand side. Negative 14 is equal to negative 14, and that's correct. Let's move to example number 2. On example number 2, we have variables on both sides. I'm now going to divide the equation in two parts. I want to be able to move my x's to one side and my numbers to the other side. I'm going to move my 5x to the left. It's positive, it's going to become a negative. I'm going to move my 4 to the right. It's going to become the opposite, negative. I have a 3x. This 5x becomes a negative 5x. I have a 10. This positive 4 becomes a negative 4. Some of you guys will subtract minus 5x's on both sides, simplify it, and then minus 4 on both sides. And you guys will learn that this is actually a little faster, especially as we move to more complex equations. Now we're going to divide by negative 2. That will cancel the negative 2. So x is equal to negative 3. For letter B, we are going to go through the same process. I'm going to draw the line. I'm going to move my negative 9a as negative, so when I move it to the other side, it's going to become a positive. This positive 13 is going to become a negative. So I have negative 15a plus 9a, that becomes a positive. We have a negative 5. The positive 13 becomes a negative 13. I'm going to combine like terms on the left hand side, so that will give me a negative 6a. Different signs, I subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. Same sign, I add, keep the sign of the bigger number. And my last step is to divide by negative 6. This will cancel, so a is equal to 3. Example number 3. If you guys notice on example number 3, we have parentheses. So the first thing that we want to do, we want to be able to get rid of the parentheses by using the distributive property. I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 4 to the x and the 4 to the negative 2. So 4 times x will give me 4x. 4 times negative 2 will give me negative 8. Now be careful on the right hand side. Many of you guys are very tempted to subtract 1 minus 3. We can't. We have to use the distributive property first to multiply this before we subtract. We have 1 comes down. Negative 3 times x will be negative 3x. Negative 3 times 1 will be negative 3. We want to be able to combine our like terms on the right hand side. Let's go and bring down the 4x minus 8. 1 minus 3 will give you a negative 2. So we have negative 3x. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Now that we use the distributive property and combine like terms, we have a problem very similar to example number 2. We have variables on both sides. We are going to be moving the x's to the left, the terms that have an x on the left, and the numbers to the right. We have 4x. This negative 3 becomes a positive 3x. We have negative 2. This negative 8 becomes a positive 8. Combine like terms. That will give me 7x is equal to 6. Our last step is to divide by 7. Divide by 7. That will cancel. 6 divided by 7 cannot be simplified, so my answer is just 6 divided by 7, or 6 sevenths. Go ahead and try letter B, see if you guys can work it out by yourselves. Go ahead and pause it. Example number 3. Let's go and divide it in 2 sections. Remember, many of you guys are very tempted to subtract negative 6 minus 2. We can't. We need to be able to get rid of the parentheses first by using the distributive property. We have negative 6. Negative times a negative is going to be positive. Positive 10x. Negative times a negative is a positive 8. Equals. Bring this down. We are going to be combining like terms. So we have negative 6 plus 8 is positive 2. We have 10x plus 2 is equal to negative 10x plus 2. We are going to be moving your x's to the left, your numbers to the right. We have 10x plus 10x is equal to 2. This becomes a negative 2. Combine like terms, so it'll be 20x is equal to 0. And when you divide by 20 on both sides, this will cancel. X is equal to 0 divided by 20 will give you 0. So your answer will be x is equal to 0. Now let's look at example number 4. It's a word problem. It says find the length. So we need to be able to find the length of the shorter side if a rectangle has a perimeter of 80. So the perimeter, if you add all 4 sides, is going to be equal to 80. And the length of its sides is as follows. So they give us a rectangle. They give us the length of one side and the other side. Since this is a rectangle, we know that if this is 5x minus 2, the bottom one will also be 5x minus 2. This is 2x plus 7. This will also be 2x plus 7. To be able to find the perimeter, we need to be able to add all four sides. And we know that's going to be equal to 80. So let's go and add all four sides. We have 5x. And 5x will give us 10. Plus 2 will give us 12. Plus 2 will give us 14. So we have 14x. We're going to be adding the numbers. Negative 2 and negative 2 is negative 4. Plus 7 is 3. Plus 7 is 10. So we have 14x plus 10, and that will be equal to 80. Now you can also just write it down on all of them and then just do it one by one. But it should give you the same equation. I'm going to go and solve the equation. I'm going to move my 10 to the right, becomes a negative 10. So we have 14x, 80 minus 10. 14x is equal to 70. Now to solve for x, I'm going to divide by 14. That will cancel. X is equal to 5. Now that is not my answer. I'm looking for the shorter side. So the shorter side will be the height. I'm going to substitute. That will be 2x plus 7. Instead of the x will be a 5. That will be 10 plus 7. My answer will be 17. So this is the shorter side. Thanks.